Hi everyone, my name is Eva. I'm a executive wellness consultant, and I wanted to talk to you about a few different things today. I'm going to start off with the Healing Remedies book and recommend a certain spice for you to try out if you are feeling a little bit under the weather. It's called cayenne pepper. And so I'll start with that because I never get to the spices and herbs that I like recommending. And then we'll get into a story from the Bible, or a section from the Bible that I wanted to bring to you, or to your attention. And then I'm going to create a separate video for praying the entire rosary. I think it's important to have that so that if you ever feel like praying the rosary, I will do it with you on video, and you'll have that forever, and you can just press play and then we can pray together. Okay, so this is cayenne pepper. Oh, before I get into that, actually, yes, I'll start with this and then we'll get into everything else. Cayenne, this very red pepper used the world over in cooking is known to many Westerners by its Caribbean name cayenne, or as a chili pepper. And are you sorry, I have difficulty pronouncing this, so I'm going to look it up. And English is my second language, and so I want to make sure that I pronounce this correctly. And I'm still getting over a cold, so that's why I'm still feel a little congested. Tiny bit. Ayurvedic. In Ayurvedic practice, it is known as mirchi. Cayenne pepper is one of the several different cultivators of, I can't pronounce that, capsicum. I don't know what that is. A milder, it says here, a milder cultivar, being red pepper. So the properties are assist in digestion, warm circulation, decongestant. So that's mainly what it does. And uses are, it's taken internally. Cayenne helps colds, fevers, and toothaches. Let's see. It's used for shingles. Creams containing cayenne may be used. It says, what else? It's really also used for poor circulation. So that's mainly the uses. So that's an herb that I wanted to mention for you to try out, possibly. And this is what it looks like right there. Okay, so before I get into the section from the Illustrated Bible, story by story, I wanted to bring this to your attention. Today is December 14th, and I feel very thankful and grateful, and I wanted to take a minute to celebrate the fact that President Trump has gone to, he's been able to stop the war in Israel, and I wanted to, thank him for that, and also thank him for meeting with Middle Eastern leaders. He did that last month also. So he's setting an amazing example for the rest of the world. and making sure that he's sending a message to the entire world that he wants peace. And I think that's an incredible thing that he's doing. He also brought up Mary, and there was a ceremony this past Wednesday that he held at the White House. So he's being an amazing example. So I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention and to support. And along that, I wanted to support what has happened in Sydney today. Something really terrible happened, and it's the Jewish community that's been targeted. And so the story and the main topic for today is going to be in support to those that are have been targeted, the Jewish community. So I wanted to dedicate this video to them. And I also wanted to mention that I'm really happy to see that there are other leaders like Bill Ackman, who also mentioned while he was being interviewed last week on Fox 25 that he is happy to see that President Trump is he stopped the war in Israel, and he's also met with leaders in the Middle East. And I think he's setting, and he mentioned the same thing, and he's setting a wonderful example for showing peace worldwide. So I think that's very important, and also very impressive as well. So getting into the story for today, the section is wisdom and praise. And I'll read to you this first section. I wasn't going to get into this, but I think it's important. It's part of the Old Testament. And I think it's important because it gives an overview of the section that I'll be reading. And it goes along with wisdom and praise, right? So this is where we are. And forgive me, I might have to look up a word or two because I want to make sure that I'm pronouncing these words correctly. So sandwiched between, this section is wisdom and praise, so sandwiched between the books that tell the history of Israel and the patriarchs, and those that describe their writings of prophets, is a collection of 5 books: Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs, that are known as the wisdom literature. The books focus in different ways on everyday life and ordinary human experience. Their varied styles range from dialogue and philosophic argument to poetry, songs for use in corporate worship, and pithy sayings. However, they have in common 2 main interweaving themes: wisdom and praise. Wisdom is presented in the 5 books as the application of the belief in God to daily life. The books teach that well-being in life begins with reverence for God and the development of a God-centered worldwide. This is so such a coincidence. Here I go again with my coincidences. I guess apparently, according to some people, they think that there are no coincidences, but to me, I still feel like they are. They're synchronicities, I guess they call them. This talks about what I mentioned at the very beginning, and it says it here in this Bible, where where the Bible has to do with well-being in life, and it has to do with the reverence for God and the development of God-centered worldwide. So when it mentioned well-being in life, that means that through the Bible you can integrate wellness in and around you, in your soul, in your body, in your mind, in your aura, in your space, in the friendships that you develop. So it's important to possibly integrate the Bible into your life. It only brings good energy into your atmosphere. Jewish teachings of wisdom is particularly associated with King Solomon. But it also, I turned over my phone because it can be distracting if I don't. Jewish teachings of wisdom is particularly associated with King Solomon, but it also draws on sources outside of the Jewish tradition. The tradition of spiritual teachings through wise sayings was widespread in the ancient Near East. Proverbs is similar to ancient Egypt's The Wisdom of Anecdotal. I can't pronounce that, sorry, for instance. In many cases, the experience of life evokes praise, the second central theme, in the light of God's creation and his unfailing love and faithfulness. The appropriate response is to sing and pray with gratitude and worship using words such as those of the Psalms. Again, it mentions unfailing love and faithfulness is for God's creation. Oh my gosh, these words really resonate with me. The book of Psalms is a collection of poetry whose main theme is praise to God, but it also reflects the range of both Israel's national experience and individual experience. The Psalms formed an important part of Israel's worship, both at the tabernacle and in the later temples in Jerusalem. The book of Proverbs is a compilation of wise sayings, especially those attributed to King Solomon, in concise maxims covering issues of everyday living. Above all, Proverbs encourages readers to trust in God. I guess this word is pronounced
Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes muses on life's enigmas and the way in which meaning and satisfaction in life seem elusive. Even though it never clearly solves all the puzzles it poses, the book rejects easy answers and suggests that the solution lies in remembering one's creator. Song of Songs is a series of intense poems celebrating human love in the form of an unrestrained conversation between lovers. It is often interpreted as an allegory of the relationship between God and his people. Despite their varied approaches, the books deal with the question of how to live wisely in the world when confronted by the good, the bad, and the routine. I really love that section. I think it resonates, and it's a good way to give a good intro to the next section, but it really feels, I feel like I just had a hamburger listening to these words. it just feeds your soul, and it makes me salivate because there's lots of context, right? This section is called Worship in Israel. And I'll show you this section here, which is very interesting. This is the wall that they normally pray at. And this wall here, it says Passover prayers, descendants of Levites, God's appointed priests for the people of Israel, cover themselves with prayer shawls as they perform the priestly blessings during Passover festivities at the Western Wall, Jerusalem. Again, this section is called Worship in Israel. In Israel's early history, there are no two set rituals or fixed places for worship. Since there was no divide between the sacred and the secular in their worldview, it was only later that specific places, first the tabernacle, then the temple, acquired special significance. You can find this, it shows here Exodus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy? I really want to look this up because I don't like mispronouncing words.
Deuteronomy.
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 Deuteronomy. There you go. So those are the sections where you can find this. Informal worship may well have continued had the Israelites afraid after God's appearance on Mount Sinai not begged him to speak in future through an intermediary. This is found in Exodus 20, verse 18 and 19. God appointed priests to offer sacrifices on their behalf at his appointed sanctuary, tabernacle, and temple worship. Israel's first specified place of worship was the tabernacle, inside which stood the Ark of the Covenant that symbolized God's presence among them. Moses said it was to be erected at the place the Lord your God will choose. Deuteronomy 12, verse 5. And could be mobile to suit the movement of Israelites. Only there should the Israelites present their offerings, sacrifices, and gifts rather than at any of the local sanctuaries of the existing Canaanite inhabitants of the promised land. It was obligatory. That's a challenging one. Obligatory. I can't believe I can't pronounce that word. Obligatory? Here we go.
Obligatory.
I knew I could do it. Where am I? Oh, yes. It was obligatory for all Jewish men to visit the tabernacle 3 times a year at the festivals of unleavened bread tabernacles. When David brought the ark to Jerusalem, he wanted to build a temple to house it, but God would not let him do do so. It fell to his son Solomon to build the temple, a magnificent building that became a focal point of worship in Israel. Its importance to the Israelites is reflected in its deconstruction by Babylon, 585 BC, before Christ, and in its later reconstruction by the returning exiles. It was completely rebuilt on a far grander scale by King Herod in the 1st century BC, and by New Testament times. It lay at the very heart of Jewish religious life and worship, causing Jerusalem to be packed whenever the great festivals were celebrated. Expression of worship. This is the last section. And then we'll move on to the next video that I'll be making, praying the rosary. The section is called Expression of Worship. Worship was generally a joyful affair, such as when Miriam led the women of Israel in rejoicing with tambourines and dancing. This is in Exodus 15:20. Or when King David accompanied the Ark of the Covenant, leaping and dancing before the Lord. This is 2 Samuel 6:16. Solomon appointed musicians and choirs for the temple's dedication, 2 Chronicles 5:12 through 13. For Israelites, most common form of worship happened at home. Prayer was offered at meal times, but also in morning, afternoon, and evenings. This was also a means for parents to pass on Israel's sacred history to their children. Deuteronomy 6, that's chapter 6, verses 4 through 25, a practice that is still followed today. Come, I think this is important to say because I feel I always get this emotional. I don't know why. I think it's because the presence and the power of God, and because He is the entire universe. He is you and I and everything we know and don't know. This is an important quote. This is in Psalms 95:6. It's confusing to me because it's 95:6. I don't know if that means chapter 95 or verse 95:6. We'll look into that later. The quote is, "Come, let us bow down in worship. Let us kneel before the Lord Maker." Sorry, I don't want to cry. It makes me think of people like, this is so silly because she's modern in the modern age, but I think it works because He creates miracles when least expected. Olivia Culpo is someone that I follow. I think she's a dear sweetheart, and I was able to meet her, and she said, I need to get out of the habit of saying because that's so, no one says that anymore. And so Olivia Culpo is again, she is someone that I admire very much, and I met recently in the last few years. She's mentioned herself in interviews that she has knelt down before God and prayed for her blessings. And we do that at church, in the Roman Catholic Church. I think that you need to set your ego aside always when you're talking to God. And it's to come from within. No one else can change you. You will get blessings if you really humble yourself in front of him. And you will have his protection as long as you stay consistent. You can't pretend he knows everything that you know in your brain and in your mind. So if you pretend to be good now and then bad later, he'll strip it all, and it, never a good idea. What I recommend is to stay consistent, pray to God, and like Olivia Culpo, she is inspirational because she is one of 5 children, grew up in Rhode Island, which is not too far from myself. And I do want to mention also today that does bring to mind the unfortunate circumstances that Brown University found themselves in as well on the same day as Sydney, which is incredibly sad. And so we also want to pray for those victims at Boston University. Brown University. I'm pretty sure it's located in Rhode Island. And she comes from humble beginnings, and she is a cello player also, which is extremely impressive. Anyone that does anything in sports, if you do ballet, if you do the cello or any of those instruments or athletic sports, there's always time and dedication and consistency and discipline that you associate yourself with. And please be careful who you associate yourself with. As long as they have good intentions, go ahead and spend time with them. If you want to look like them, also spend time with them. But I feel like today I went to church, and it was really nice to meet new people and to receive that blessing and to feel peace. I do monitor myself on how much I am watching and what I'm exposing myself to. And I'm also dedicating my time to reading the Bible. So those are some of the things I wanted to recommend and highlight to you. But I was talking about Olivia Culpo. I know I was mentioning her. And, I bring her up because she is an inspiration, and she has even knelt before God to get her blessings. And she has been blessed so far. She has a new, I believe, clothing line that she started within this year, and she just had a baby and was married within the last 2 years. So she's come a long way, and I want to praise and I want to highlight people such as her that have good intentions and are simply good people. So I think that's all I had for today with this video. And then on my next video, I will be praying the rosary from the beginning to end so that we can all have that. I will probably do another video praying the entire rosary to compare and contrast and see if one is better than the other. But I appreciate you watching today. Thank you for spending time with me, and I hope you have a great day.